That's now in place. Thank you.
Thank you, Shelley. Good morning, everyone, and welcome to this virtual meeting of the SKDC Planning Committee. My apologies to members of the public and those waiting to join the meeting. We've had a technical hitch, which hopefully is resolved for the rest of the meeting. So from that, you'll gather we're still having challenging times, whether it's IT or COVID, etc. And I look forward to the fullest cooperation of members and the public in ensuring that our deliberations proceed in an orderly and professional manner. Dealing with housekeeping matters, could I ask everyone to either turn off their devices or put them to silent, please? Members of the committee and the public may find it helpful to have their devices, and by that I mean their IT devices, connected to the electricity supply to avoid losing connection to the meeting. It would be helpful if you're not speaking, please, to turn your cameras off, sorry, to turn your sound off, and also any landlines in people's homes, if they are situated near where you're sitting, please ensure that they're muted, and if you have pets, that they're not able to access the room you're working in, and that other household distractions are kept to a minimum. May I remind everyone that members of the committee have control of their own microphones, so please remember to turn them on when you are speaking and turn them off when you finish. Shelley has control of the mechanism for turning off the microphones for public speakers, and please may I ask any committee member and members of the public that have their cameras turned on when they're speaking, please, and speakers will be advised when they have 30 seconds left and when their time is up. The chat function in Skype for Business is only for use of planning committee members who wish to indicate that they would like to speak. Members of the public or other members should not use the chat function. If they do, I'll ask them to cease once, and if they continue to use it, I will have them removed from the meeting. Please be aware that you could disconnect yourself if you inadvertently press any of the buttons on your device. We have IT support during the whole of the meeting should it be needed. If a member or members do get disconnected for more than a few seconds, I'll refer members and the public to 16.2 of the published protocol, adjournment of a meeting. We will adjourn the meeting for a period to try and reconnect members. If we can't, then that member that we can't, or members that we can't reconnect, I'm afraid may have to be removed from the meeting. May I remind everyone again that the meeting is being recorded. There's only two of us in the council chamber this morning, and that is Robert Reed and myself. All the other officers are working from home. And I think that's covered all the housekeeping matters. So could I ask Shelley, please, to do a roll call of the members and officers and those members of the public who have registered to speak. As far as I'm aware, there's only one, and that is Councillor Mulley on an item later on in the agenda. Shelley?
Councillor Adams, we have Susan Hislop from Democratic Services doing the roll calls today. But just before we proceed, I just wanted to check if Councillor Cabry-Brown was able to hear and see the meeting. Councillor Cabry-Brown? I will speak to IT and get that issue resolved, Chairman. Are you happy to
Mr. Chairman, this is Councillor Bellamy. Still haven't got any video.
Bear with me. Let me see if I can get you reconnected.
Thank you, Chairman.
You heard all that. You heard all the first part. Did you, David? Yeah.
Working now, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
Oh, good. Okay. Sorry, it's not telling me it is. Thank you, David.
Chairman, I'm having similar difficulties, Will, here with my video.
Bear with me, Will.
You work your magic, please.
Can you try again now, please, Will?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, that's fine. Thanks, Bob. Thank you very much.
Super. Can I just have a final check then? Anybody else, member or officer, who cannot open their video camera? Shelley, where Rosemary is concerned, I know Sean has gone to try and sort that out. I am going to proceed, but it will mean that she won't be able to take part if we have already started one of the items on the agenda. But we will, no doubt you'll make that clear to her.
Certainly, Chairman. So Susan will be able to now do the roll call. Thank you.
Thank you, Shelley.
Thank you, Chairman. Good morning, councillors. Can I check Councillor Bob Adams, please?
Present.
Councillor David Bellamy.
Present.
Councillor Hashwish Bisnow Singh.
Present.
Bisnow Singh is the...
I've been practising that. My apologies.
It's all right.
Sing.
Councillor Helen Crawford.
Present, that was easier.
Yes. Councillor Phil Dilks.
Present.
Councillor Mike Exton.
Present.
Councillor Penny Mills.
Present.
Councillor Charmaine Morgan.
No, Charmaine has said, given her apologies, she will be late, but try and join us later.
Thank you. Councillor Robert Reid.
Good morning and present.
Good morning. Councillor Mrs. Rosemary Cabery Brown. Delayed?
I can't see where she's been able to join us yet. So.
Thank you, Chairman. Councillor Ian Selby.
Present. Good morning all, and a belated happy birthday to Mandy Braithwaite. Birthday just a few days ago, I believe.
Happy birthday, Mandy. Councillor Jackie Smith.
Present.
And Councillor Mrs. Judy Smith.
Present.
Oh, good morning. My name's Councillor Phil Cupid, Barrowby Parish Council. I'm watching the planning meeting at the moment, and I've registered to speak. But when Councillor Adams has just gone through the list of speakers, he didn't mention me.
Quite correct, Philip. I'm not aware that you had registered to speak, but as it is a part heard application, you wouldn't be permitted to speak anyway, Philip. Sorry.
Cupid, C-U-P-I-T.
You will be talking. You'll be referring to the Barrowby one, will you not?
Yeah.
And that's part heard, Phil. From memory, you spoke at the when we originally considered this, but then deferred it, so you wouldn't be able to speak at this one anyway, Phil.
Okay, thank you, Chairman.
Sorry about that, but that is that's the Constitution, Phil, and with the best will in the world, I can't vary it.
Okay, thank you.
But, welcome to the meeting, and please stay with us to listen if you so wish. And that applies, that question of part heard is the first 5 items on the agenda, members. So those comments will apply to all of those first, 5 items. Can we, can we go on to item 2, please, which is disclosure of interest? Has any member got any disclosure of interest that is not already recorded in the register of interests? I'm just going to repeat because of the high waste question that I am a member of the County Council and a member of the High Waste Scrutiny Committee. Excuse me, but that is recorded in the register of interest. And I think that applies to Councillor Reid.
Also, Mr. Chairman, can I say that I've been approached by some resident of Stamford with regards to the Cherry Hall development?
Thank you. So that's lobbying, but as we all do, we are. It's perfectly. Members of the public are perfectly entitled to lobby us, but we still come here with open minds and without having predetermined how we might determine an item on the agenda.
Correct, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Chairman, if I can just make my clarity of my position absolutely clear. I have taken legal advice on county council applications when this application was going to come up before. I sit here firstly and primarily as the representative for the district council, as a member of the planning committee, my mind is open. I have no prejudgments, and I should be looking upon this application as it is published for the district council, obviously as the planning authority, for the avoidance of doubt. Chair, thank you.
Thank you for that, Councillor Reid. Robert, I think it would also be right to say, I think probably all of us have had emails from one of the part heard ones, which is, sorry, no, it's not coming up. And that was from the Longhurst group over minded to refuse but sorry, I think I'm confusing myself now, so I'll move on and deal with that as it comes up. Okay, if we can then move to the next item on the agenda, which is minutes of the meeting held on the 28th of October, and I believe there are two corrections to be made. One in the name of Councillor Exton, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. It's regarding the S20 0632. I was left the meeting before you actually discussed it, but it's not recorded in the planning presentation today.
Thank you for that, Mike. And it's presumably not recorded in the minutes of the meeting. Is that what you're telling me, Mike?
Well, it would been recorded because it's not at the last planning meeting. It was some time ago when this was first heard. So, you know.
Okay, so you're saying...
I won't be speaking, I won't take any part in the Eastgate Team St James application.
Thank you very much for that, Mike. So it's not actually a correction to the minutes, it's an additional information to the report.
Yes, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mike. And I can't remember who it was, but somebody else mentioned, I think it might have been Phil on minutes, something you thought had been left out, a condition? Or was that Phil Jordan?
Not that I remember, no.
Right, okay. Somebody mentioned that there had been a condition left out of one of the minutes. Sorry, thank you, Robert. I knew somebody had.
Oh, sorry, beg your pardon, Chairman. Yes, on the Beaufort Drive applications, there was an extra condition added to the care home application. I understand how this has happened. The same condition should have been attached to the affordable housing application as well, but it hasn't been. However, it is as it is. It's not going to be detrimental. I propose, Chairman, and my fellow Vice Councillor and Vice Chairman Judy Smith seconded it. We've both agreed that it is acceptable in its format. It would have just been helpful as an added strength, but it doesn't alter things, Chair. So that, Chairman, so that's the one you were recollecting to, as I'd mentioned.
So you're content to leave the minutes as they stand?
Yes, it was just a comment, really.
Thank you very much indeed. Are there any other potential corrections to the minutes? And these are for accuracy only. Does anybody wish me to go through them page by page? Can I then take the minutes as read and ask for a proposer and seconder, please, that they be adopted as a correct record?
I propose, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Harish. Could I have a second?
Second, Judy Smith.
Thank you, Judy. And I think we need... Shelley, can we do a vote by exception rather than go through a recorded vote every time where the minutes are concerned?
I certainly think that would be fine, Chairman. I don't see an issue with that at all.
Thank you very much indeed. So can I just leave 30 seconds if anybody has wishes to vote and vote against the adoption of the minutes, please? I'm going to just check the chat box. I can't see any member indicating they either wish to vote against the minutes or abstain from them, so I will take those as read and approved. Thank you very much indeed. If we can now go on, please, to the applications to be considered. Application S19-1475. This is part heard, and this is for Phil Jordan to bring us up to date, please.
Chairman, before we commence the item, can we just check if Councillor Rosemary Caby-Brown is in the meeting and can hear us?
Rosemary, are you with us and can you hear us? Okay. Could you perhaps contact Sean, please, Shelley, and see how far he's got with getting Rosemary connected, please?
Certainly, Chairman.
Thank you. Phil Jordan.
Hello. Thank you, Chairman, and good morning, members.
Hello. Rosemary. Hang on, Phil. Rosemary, welcome. Good morning. Can you both hear us? Can you hear us, Can you hear me, Rosemary? Okay, I'm assuming then that she can't, so we'll proceed, Phil. And if Rosemary joins us in the meantime, then we will have to record the fact that she wasn't present for the whole of the item and therefore cannot vote. So carry on, Phil, please.
Thank you, Chairman. Can you just confirm that you can see my screen?
I can.
Thank you. I'll start the presentation then.
Thank you.
So this first item is application S19-1475. It's for the erection of 31 affordable dwellings on land off Cherry Holt Road in Stamford. So members will recall that the application was previously discussed at the 30th of September Planning Committee. The application was recommended for approval. Members voted that they were minded to refuse the application, which therefore enacted the calling off period, and members were then subsequently invited to submit their reasons for refusal. Those submitted reasons have been considered by the Head of Development Management through the published report and additional items paper. So just to sort of recap the key issues with the application, with the principle of development, the provision of affordable housing and the benefits attached to that, impact on the character of the area and heritage assets, impact on neighbouring properties, flood risk, highways issues and ecology impact. So the site showed on the screen there, you'll see it's land to the south of Priory Road in Stamford and accessed off Cherry Holt Road. Members will recall from the site visit the site's largely in the centre of Stamford. Just to the south of the site is the River Welland, and to the east of the site is the St Leonard's Priory. So the photo here just shows the site in context with the Bowman's Mews development in the background, the allotments which are in the foreground of the site there. You can see the rear gardens of the Priory Road houses to the right of the screen, and the access into the site would be behind that first pylon that you can see to the left of the screen. So again, this shows the layout, 31 affordable houses. Members may recall that the access was in a higher flood risk area, and so the access road into the site is on that split level arrangement, whereby one of the levels is higher and above the line of the flood risk, and the second level just at the lower level. I think while we've got that screen on there, it's just worth pointing out as well, the development would open up this access onto Priory Road, which would be allow sort of connectivity through the site, Just where my cursor is on the screen here, there's also the provision of some formal open space and equipped play, an equipped play area. And then you can just see the arrangement of the houses within the site and some indicative landscaping as well shown on that plan. So I've got some sort of further elevations and plans if members wish to see them, but I'll just show this some sort of indicative sections through the site which show how the street scene would appear. So just to sort of go through a bit of an evaluation really, and this really just summarises what's already been presented in the main report and the additional items paper. Members put forward reasons for refusal, and effectively what the head of development management has done is considered those reasons and distilled them into sort of 6 different categories. The first 4 categories there, issues that relate to the principle of development, aren't considered to be substantive enough to be defended at an appeal. The site's in a sustainable area and is considered to be in accordance with the spatial policies in the development plan. In terms of sort of impact on ecology, again, the applicant has submitted a baseline survey, and we've got a good understanding of what the existing ecology within the site is, and by way of condition and landscaping, there would be the potential there to create some enhancements to that ecology and biodiversity network. So again, that alone isn't seen as a substantive reason enough to defend an appeal. Flood risk, again, members may recall there was sort of significant debate and representation that's been received in relation to the potential for flood risk and the issues with that access road through and into the site. Sort of, despite what we've received in that respect, effectively the mitigation for flood risk that's been put forward by the applicant and evidence through their flood risk assessment and package of mitigation measures, the Environment Agency have accepted that, as have Lincolnshire County Council as the lead local flood authority, and the Lincolnshire Emergency Planners are happy with that. So again, the Head of Development Management doesn't consider that we've got substantive enough evidence for that reason to defend that through an appeal process. Likewise, again, there was quite a bit of debate and comment around the traffic impacts and highway impacts of the development. Again, really the same sort of justification as above. The current advice from Lincolnshire County Council, who are the lead local highway authority, haven't objected to the scheme, and therefore, again, that would be a very difficult reason. The local authority doesn't have any evidence to substantiate that as a reason for refusal. The final 2 reasons, which really relate to the first one being the impact on heritage assets, there is some harm that's been identified both through the applicant's heritage assessment, the council's conservation officer, and Historic England. Although that harm is identified as being less than substantial, there is nevertheless harm there, and so there is some evidence that is a justified reason for refusal. And likewise, in terms of green infrastructure, which is sort of covered under policy EN3 in the plan, the site would result in the loss of a greenfield site. Again, there was quite a bit of debate around whether that conflicted with the open space policies in the plan. There was some talk about the emerging Stamford neighbourhood plan. But in terms of the relevance as the site as it is at the moment, it's accepted that it would be reasonable to conclude there's some conflict with policy EN3. But as things currently stand, the policies in the Stamford neighbourhood plan, the draft version, and the open space policies in the council's local plan wouldn't be appropriate to use as a reason for refusal. So the sort of summary and conclusion really is that this remains a balanced decision. That was highlighted in the original officer report. The officer recommendation remains that in making that balance, the benefits of the scheme outweigh the identified conflict and harm. However, in the Head of Development Management's assessment of the submitted reasons, the following reason is considered to be a reason that could be defended through the appeal process. Just before I sort of conclude, I'll just highlight that reason that's shown on the screen there. There have been some minor amendments to that since the formal papers were published, and that followed further consideration of the letter that was submitted on behalf of the applicants by the Head of Development Management. I'll just briefly highlight what those changes are. Previously, in the second sentence, it was referred to a loss of green space. Green space can be sort of interpreted to relate to sort of more formal open space, and so the wording's been changed there to green infrastructure, which better reflects the wording under policy EN3 in the local plan. Going down to the fourth sentence, sorry, the fifth sentence down, I think the wording previously suggested that the affordable dwellings weren't justified, and again, I think members need to be mindful that there's significant evidence of a need for affordable housing in Stamford, and therefore it needs to be acknowledged that there are benefits and there is a need for affordable housing, and in making any balance on the decision, they need to consider those benefits against the harm. And then the final change is enlisting the conflict with the development plan, which was already there, policies EN1, EN3 and EN6. It's also relevant to include the provisions of section 66 of the Planning Act. And again, that was discussed at length in the original presentation and has been discussed through the reports. That's the additional statutory provisions we have to protect listed buildings and their settings, and sits slightly outside of the, well, it's outside of the local plan policies. It's a statutory provision, and something that allows great weight to be given to the consideration of heritage assets and their protection in that balancing process. So really, in conclusion, I would say that, you know, in making that balance, as I've already said, the officer recommendation is that the benefits still outweigh the harm, but the Head of Development Management has concluded that for the reasons set out in that reason below, that in making that balance, it wouldn't be unreasonable for members to come to a different conclusion. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you, Phil. No speakers on this one, so we go straight to questions to the case officer. Phil Dilks, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I've got three questions, and thank you, Phil. And we've had some correspondence, and I thank you for the answers. I've got three questions. I'll do them one at a time. I'm concerned, I've got to say, that we should make the refusal reasons on this as strong as possible. And that's hence my questions. The first one is on flooding, and there's been a lot of information that we've had about flooding and concerns of risk of flooding from those objecting. And part of the site is clearly in flood zone 3, which is at the highest risk of flooding, and there are innovative mitigation measures proposed, such as you said, Phil, the access road being on split level, so that residents can get in and out in case of flooding, and houses planned for the lower part of the site being on raised floor levels. Now, I understand that those, as you say, have satisfied the Environment Agency, Anglian Water, and the Lead Flood Authority, Lincolnshire County Council, and the emergency services. But are we sure are we sure that the proposal satisfies our own local plan policy EN5, which states clearly all developments must avoid increasing flood risk elsewhere? Surely the mitigation measures necessary, particularly the split level road, will have the effect of pushing the flooding away from this site to elsewhere. That's my first question. Do you want me to go on, or
no? I'll answer them one at a time, just so I don't forget them, I suppose.
Yeah.
So I think my answer to that would be that potential risk to flooding elsewhere was raised through the consideration of the application, and we don't have any evidence to support that would be the case. What I would say in terms of that being a reason to bring up, should members vote to refuse the application, there would be, and of course the applicant chose to appeal that decision, there would be the ability for any of those reasons to be advanced with the inspectorate by third parties that have raised that already. I think from the local authority's point of view, given the absence of any objection from the expert bodies that we refer to on those matters, I think it would be unreasonable for that to be included as a reason for refusal, and would put the local authority at a risk of a award of costs. But like I say, should the application be refused and appealed, there would still be the ability for those reasons to be pursued by third parties.
Thank you for that, Phil. I do find it interesting that, if we got one solid reason, that surely mitigates the applications for costs, and I don't see a problem with throwing in the other perhaps weaker reasons. However, I'll move on, if I may, in terms of time. My second question is about affordable homes, and despite my passion, and I'm sure everyone's, for affordable homes, I welcome the reason that the 31 affordable homes are not sufficient mitigation for the loss of the valued green space and damage to the heritage asset. However, mindful of reading recent appeal judgments, would it not be prudent to justify the affordable homes argument by pointing out that of the 2,000 homes earmarked to be built in Stamford, the current local plan requires at least 600 of them will be affordable, and some have been completed in the last couple of years, and more will be. In the original report, we listed, and I note in the Head of Planning's responses to the reasons for refusal, he states the need for affordable homes in Stamford. But in the original report, it doesn't say how many people wish to be housed in Stamford. It gives the number listed on the housing waiting list right across the district. And I just wonder, if we could drill down to those, how many of those on the list would want or be capable of being housed in Stamford, not, for example, in Grantham or north of Grantham or Long Bennington even. Thank you.
I think my sort of short answer about the affordable housing is that, as always, we have to consider this application on its own merits and at the current time. And whilst there would be there is a planned route to meeting the affordable housing needs in Stamford through the allocated sites, we have to consider that there is an immediate need for affordable housing, and this scheme would meet some of that need. Whilst, like I say, there is that plan need across, within the local plan on the allocated sites, there's no guarantee of when those sites are going to come forward, or when they would be built and delivered. And so I think we have to accept that there certainly is a need for affordable housing at the moment as things stand. In terms of the question about where the people currently live, or and so on, the duty on the local authority is to meet the housing needs of the district. I think there is evidence that there's a considerable need of affordable housing in Stamford in any case, but when we are talking about need for affordable housing, we have to consider the needs of the district anyway. So I guess, the short answer is that we can't say the need for affordable housing isn't justified, and that was why there was a slight change in that wording. I think we have to accept that there are benefits and considerable benefits to providing these houses, but it's just that benefit then needs to be weighed against any of the harm that's been identified.
Thank you, Phil. Thank you. And my final question is on highways, and I know that you say the site is considered to be in a sustainable location, and after assessing potential traffic impacts and highway safety implications, there are no objections from highways or emergency services. And of course, you say that the council has no substantive evidence to support any contrary conclusion. As you recall, I wrote to you and you gave me a reply, but I do wish to raise the fact, and I am concerned that this council's earlier assessment for potential development of a wider area, which included this site, gave information that there were serious concerns by the Highways Authority in relation to development on this site, and which also stated that Wharf Road, Cherry Holt are not suitable to serve development. This was from the Highways comments, and that major highways improvements will be required, including signalisation of the existing zebra crossing on Wharf Road and providing crossing on Priory Road, and that development was not likely to be supported in this area without substantial highways mitigation works. So what I'm asking is, what has changed since that assessment? Surely we should take account of that assessment. And whilst I appreciate the difficulty in if there are no concerns now from the highways, that is an assessment that has been made about this site, and surely we should take that into account.
I'll sort of highlight what I said to you in the written response, that was obviously sent to all members. I understand the point that's being raised, and I understand the concern, especially in light of those those comments that were previously made about the site. I think one change is if I was looking at the right document, I think those comments were made prior to the MPPF, which, as we often talk about, that introduced consideration of it's the paragraph which states development should only be refused when the impact on traffic is severe. So that was quite a significant policy change, and it also looked like those, like I say, the site that was being commented on at that time was a much wider mixed-use site that included some of the commercial land to the west of the site, and it looked like it also included the allotment land as well. And I can't remember the exact figures, but I think that the total land area was something like 14 hectares compared to this being less than a hectare. So you would have been talking about a considerably bigger development with much greater impacts. So again, it's should the application be refused, it's a reason that could be advanced through the appeal by others, but for the local authority, would have to consider the current advice of the Highway Authority. And if we did anything to the contrary, I think there would be a real risk again of a costs award against the council. So I think short answer is we just need to go on their current assessment, notwithstanding that previous assessment that's been made.
Thank you, Phil.
Thank you very much, Phil. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Phil Dilks. Harris, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Phil, for an excellent presentation. Phil, I've got two questions. The first one, in your deliberations with regard to the 31 affordable home on this site, did you take into considerations the currently going through the St. Martin's Park development? There will be plenty of affordable homes there. And also the proposals that were put forward recently for consultations on the north side of Stamford, that it past the football ground for 1,200 houses, which there will be substantial amount of affordable homes there. Surely this 31 is only a tiny part of it. I know this is being classified as a windfall site, even though it has not been in our own SKDC local plan for it. I just wonder, is this for convenience that this is being put forward, or we have got plenty of affordable homes that is planned for it? It is true, we like affordable homes to be in Stamford, but I think probably we should wait for the northern side development where it is closer to the primary education, secondary education, and the tertiary educations as well. For it. And this one here, you have to cross a major road from the prior road, which I did ask for a zebra crossing, and that has not been coming. But I see you have made some gain in terms of a proposal on the 106, but that's also is conditional. Could you please clarify that for me?
Yeah, I think, I mean, it's the same answer really as the second of Councillor Dilt's questions. We've got to consider the scheme, as submitted at the current time. And yes, whilst there would be affordable homes delivered through St Martin's Park, and there would be affordable homes delivered through Stamford North, there's no guarantee that those schemes, that neither of those currently have planning permission, and there's no timescales attached to when they would get planning permission and any guarantee of when they would be delivered. So I appreciate the points that are being made, but we have to look at this as of today and consider the affordable housing that would be provided would provide a current benefit.
Yeah. Well, my second question is with regard to on page 36, paragraph 5.4, the head of planning, conclusion at the end of it. Could you please clarify this 106 for educations? If this application is approved, then we lose this 106 agreement for education.
Yeah, sorry, I meant to cover that point in the presentation. That's highlighted in the main report. Since the application was first heard on the 30th of September, Lincolnshire County Council, as the Education Authority, submitted further comments to say that the 3 secondary school places were no longer needed to mitigate the impact of this development, and therefore they wouldn't be pursuing that request for the education contribution. So again, if members are minded to approve the application, the update is that the Section 106 agreement would no longer be required to include that education contribution.
So there is no gain whatsoever.
Well, it's not a gain anyway. It's mitigation. The education contributions are mitigation for the impact of the development, but essentially there would no longer be the need for that education contribution, and we therefore wouldn't be justified in seeking that from the applicants.
Thank you very much, Phil.
Thank you, Phil. Before asking Councillor Penny Milnes to come in, clearly this question of affordable housing across the district is causing a great deal of concern to members as planning applications come forward. And I will speak to the portfolio holder with a view to getting data and evidence where affordable housing is concerned across the districts, which could help us in our judgment of these applications as they come forward. By that I mean, where are they needed, and the numbers, etc. But we might have a discussion on that after the meeting and see how we can take that forward to evidence the committee when they're considering these applications. So, Councillor Milnes, Penny.
Yes, thank you, Bob. Just to follow on from what you've just said, I mean, I understand we have a brand new local plan that passed the inspector's report. We've got allocations, we've got percentages for affordable housing that is to meet the need. Now, if developers aren't building or a reluctance to build, or we're being driven by...
Penny, may I stop you there without being rude? I think we're getting into a debate here. Have you got a specific question to Phil with regard to the application? And if so, would you mind putting it? And then the wider issue of affordable housing across the district, if it's possible to leave those comments until we have a discussion after the meeting, that would be helpful. I'm mindful that the Constitution said we are given 10 minutes for these questions, and we've already exceeded that. I'm not going to stop it, but it would be helpful if we can keep it brief, please.
Yes, well, thank you, Bob. But Phil was arguing that we don't know when these other sites might come forward. So it is relevant to the argument of affordable housing provision as to, are we skewing this need for the provision in that way? I'll leave it there. But I think that is a valid question to be answered. My second point is the sustainability of this site. It was never allocated because it was very constrained. Mitigation at all costs. The amount for the road, the £1 million that I believe Homes England might be putting in, equals £32,250 per house on this site. Surely that could be better spent on a site that doesn't require all this expensive mitigation, particularly when it's for affordable housing. And added to that, you know, we've got, it is a small part of the allocations. We've got LCC costs of managing this access road for the lifetime of the development, particularly if it's prone to flooding and damage. We've now got no money for the education. We've got, are these affordable homes, are they responsible for managing and maintaining the rest of that service road beyond the main access road? The commercial bin, you know, people have to bring their bins down to that access road because the other road isn't capable. So all in all, you know, whilst we're talking affordable housing, is this site really affordable? And there are other sites available in the local plan. So I leave it there. I think the impact on the residents of the flood risk is also great, not just for the road, but for the gardens of certain houses that have to be built up and the implications for foundations. Is that really what we want to put people in affordable housing? Are we really going to do that? We'll get complaints. And then they suggest that the pedestrian access from Priory Road can be used in an emergency for smaller vehicles. So I'll just make this point about the sustainability of a site like this for affordable housing. And I don't understand it at all.
It's not a question.
And I'd like Phil to give me some answers on that, please. Thank you.
I don't know really whether there's any real questions there. Yes, there are, I suppose, but I don't know whether they're questions that can be answered in the context of this discussion or questions to the case officer on the application. Phil, is there anything you feel that you could add?
Can I phrase it better then? The sustainability of the site and the affordability of it for affordable homes.
Thank you, Penny. Phil?
Yeah, I mean, in terms of the sustainability of the site, you know, we largely take that to be the sort of the locational qualities of where we're placing development in terms of, you know, access to services and facilities and so on. And, you know, clearly it's within the main built-up part of Stamford, and is certainly in our in terms of the relevance to the policies in the plan, it certainly is a sustainable location. The affordability, I mean, again, that's a defined type of product within the planning policy, both national and local, in terms of what affordable means, and the Homes England money which is being put towards this scheme to assist with the viability and deliverability of it would be very much dependent on, or is due to the nature of this being an affordable only scheme, of which, equally that would be secured through the legal agreement. So I don't think for me there's any question that this isn't a sustainable location and that these houses wouldn't be affordable. You're on mute, Chairman.
Yeah, no, thank you, Phil. I've just noticed that there is a comment from a member of the public with regarding this. May I remind members of the public that they should not use the chat room. I'll just repeat that, and I won't repeat my comments at the beginning of the meeting, but I will action it if they continue. Mike Exton, please. Councillor Exton.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Councillor Vishnu Singh raised the point he made regarding education. My main concern is now, if in the future this goes through, but there's no mention about the health side, medical. As the local people know, and it's been well publicised, the one surgery is proposed to be closed, which leaves us for just one major surgery. So consequently, we're going to need upgrades of all this, and surely financial assistance to upgrade the existing medical care, and also for the local hospital. It must be some kind of consideration that some money must be awarded for healthcare. Thank you.
My understanding is that the CCGs are invited to apply for funding from schemes, and generally speaking, it's their choice whether they do so or not. I don't know whether that's still the case, Phil, is it?
Yeah, I mean, I can answer that. So we consult with the NHS on. It's the same sort of argument around the education impact. It's assessed against the impact of the development on the local facilities, and they then come back to us with a request for funding. And in this case, they've requested that, and the funding is just over £20,000. That they have a formula for how they do that. So again, should the application be approved, that health contribution would be secured by a legal agreement.
Thank you, Phil. Okay, Mike.
Thank you, Phil. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Harris, you've already been in once. Is this a new item to be raised, or?
Yes, Mr. Chairman. Following on from the questions, I forgot to add that to Phil. Does that mean that £20,460 for the health provision? Will that also be lost if this application is approved?
No, that still stands. It's only the education contribution that the county council have said is no longer required.
Yeah, that is not sufficient, though, as Councillor Mike Exton says.
Thank you, Phil. Thank you, Harris. Thank you, Phil. There are no further members wishing to ask questions. Excuse me. Do you wish to go on to a debate, or have we sufficient information now to move to a decision?
Chairman, I would suggest that I'm quite happy to propose. I think the questions have been also included in debate. This is part heard, and it has come back really for our endorsement of refusal on the grounds that we gave last time. And so therefore I look for a seconder, unless anybody has anything more to say.
I will second that, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Harish. Thank you for that, Robert. One last opportunity for any member who hasn't spoken if they wish to contribute. I don't want to prolong it. I think we've had and heard sufficient information, etc., to come to a conclusion. So it has been proposed, and Martha, you wish to, Martha Rees, our legal guru. Yes, Martha.
Thank you, Chairman. I just wanted to clarify, Councillor Reid is proposing the revised reason for refusal that Mr. Jordan put forward in his report.
Yes, that is the case, I'm quite sure.
Yeah, I confirm.
Are you happy with that, Martha?
Yes, Chairman, thank you.
Thank you very much. So I'll move to the vote, please. This will have to be a recorded, or will be a recorded vote. So I would ask Shelley if she will follow the procedure, please.
Thank you, Chairman. If I just like to note that Rosemary Caber-Brown hasn't made it into the meeting, so
yes, I have.
Oh, you have you? Oh, excellent. Unfortunately, she's not been here for the whole of the item.
I won't be voting.
Wonderful. Thank you very much. Now Susan will take the recorded vote for you, Chairman.
Morning,
Thank
Rosemary,
you.
and welcome.
Thank you. It's only just made it, but it's various means.
Okay, well, the main thing is you've got here. You've got into the meeting, Rosemary. Thank you.
Yes.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, do we need to be informed about who was at the last meeting and or who wasn't at the last meeting?
Okay, Shelley, can you tell us who is entitled to vote and who isn't, please?
I believe Susan has a record of this as she's taken the roll call. Thank you.
Oh, beg your pardon.
That's okay.
Susan.
Thank
Okay.
you.
Hello, Chairman. I have down here that Councillor Charmaine Morgan and Councillor Judy Stevens will not be able to vote. Is that correct?
Well, neither are present for this.
That
neither
explains
are
then.
present.
Susan.
Okay.
Yep, I've got everybody else able to vote.
Mr. Chairman, I wasn't present at the first meeting in September.
Okay, then please register abstain for that reason, will you, David? Then just for clarity.
And neither was I, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, so when your name is called, please say abstain for not present at the first hearing.
Thank you.
For clarity, Mr. Chairman, may I ask a question?
What is it, say, Ian?
It's if we're supporting the proposal by Councillor Reid, then we're voting for refusal. Is that correct?
Yes, correct.
Thank you.
So please say for refusal, against refusal, or abstain, just for absolute clarity.
Now, is there any way you can have supper tonight? There isn't.
Rosemary, will you turn your microphone off, please? We're hearing your private conversation.
Sorry, it's just somebody's.
Thank you.
What's the supper?
I'll let you know later. Susan, can you go ahead with the vote, please?
Yeah, we'll do. Councillor Bob Adams.
For refusal.
For refusal. And Councillor David Bellamy cannot vote. Councillor Harish Bisning Nowsing.
For refusal. Bisnod Singh.
Miss Nowsing.
Nothing. Thank you. Councillor Helen Crawford.
For refusal.
Councillor Phil Dilks.
For refusal.
Councillor Mike Exton.
For.
For refusal.
Yeah, just for refusal.
Councillor Penny Mills.
For refusal.
Councillor Robert Reid.
For refusal.
Councillor Rosemary Caber-Brown wasn't in attendance. Councillor Ian Selby.
For refusal.
Councillor Jackie Smith.
Jackie, are you able to take part in the vote? Are you still with us? Move on, Susan.
Yeah. And Councillor Judy Smith is not able to vote.
Okay, if IT are still with us, could you please contact Jackie Smith to Find out why she's lost connection. Okay, Shelley, could you contact IT, please?
Certainly, Chairman.
Thank you. So we need to declare the result of the vote, please, Susan.
It's sorry, I'm just adding them up while I was waiting for Jackie Smith, Councillor Smith. I have unanimous for voting for refusal at 7 currently, with Councillor Jackie Smith unresponsive.
Thank you very much indeed. It is our usual practice to have a quick 5-minute break after each item on the agenda. I propose to do this. We've been going for an hour, over an hour now. So can we be back, please, for 11:15?
Thank you, Bob.
You okay, Mike? Oh, we are still recording.
Question to Bob, if he's still about, please.
I'm listening, Ian.
Just if you can just remind members that it is still recording.
Oh dear.
Yeah, question to Bob is when is available, please.
Yeah.
Robert?
Yeah, hello.
It's Ian Selby here, Robert. Just a question, please, Robert. I was going to ask Bob it, but I'm sure you'll be able to answer the question. Usually when we vote against the officer's recommendations, we have to submit our reasons within...
Hang on, Ian. I don't know whether you're talking to me, but I've lost my connection and I am trying
You must be back, Bob, because I can see you and I can hear you now.
Yeah, but I want to get rid of this Southcast Stephen.
It's gone. I don't know what happened, but it's gone.
It's the screensaver for the meeting, Chairman, as we're still recording.
Yeah, my question, Robert, is we usually have to submit our reasons within 5 working days. Will that still be the case with this application, this last application, or are you?
No, Ian, we've already done all that. This is the final decision. We gave the reasons. These are part heard coming back, and no, the reason is in the minutes.
Thank you. That's what I'm asking for.
And just for clarity, Ian, there's several others on today's, and they'll be exactly the same.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much.
The first 5 in. Shelley, what were you saying when we had a break? You continued the recording.
Yes, it's the usual process as we've done previously, is to continue the recording, and we put a screensaver up just to let members of the public know.
Sorry, I thought we actually stopped the recording.
Not to my knowledge, only sort of prolonged breaks, not short recess.
Okay. Okay, so we'll better have a quick roll call, Shelley, to make sure we're all back here.
Susan, if you could please oblige.
Happy to oblige. Councillor Bob Adams?
Present.
Councillor David Bellamy?
Present, but I'm unable to take part in the debate.
Thank you. Councillor Harish Bishnath Singh?
Present.
Councillor Helen Crawford?
Present.
Councillor Phil Dilks?
Present.
Councillor Mike Exton?
Present, but unable to take any part in the debate as I was not at the meeting.
Thank you. Councillor Penny Mills?
Present.
Has Councillor Charmaine Morgan joined the meeting yet?
No.
No. Councillor Robert Reid?
Present.
Councillor Mrs Rosemary Coburey-Brown?
Present.
Councillor Ian Selby?
Present.
Councillor Jackie Smith? Don't appear to have Councillor Jackie Smith back as yet. And Councillor Mrs Judy Smith?
Present, but unable to participate in the debate.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Susan. Jackie Smith, are you with us yet? She did try to ring me a minute ago, and I didn't get to the phone in time.
Chairman, sorry to interrupt. I've been informed by IT that she is there, So I will just check to see perhaps maybe if she's muted at all.
Thank you.
No, both her video and her microphone appear to be working. I will ask IT to follow up further.
Okay, again, if she doesn't join us in the next few seconds, Shelley will have to exclude her from any vote. Okay, if we can move on to...
Bob, Mr. Chairman, just according to the minutes, Councillor Jackie Smith actually left the meeting as well.
For this item?
Yeah. If you look at the...
Okay, Mike. Yeah, take your word for it. Yep. Okay, so she probably excused herself anyway.
Yeah, she left at 17:38.
Thank you, Mike. Okay, so that's 4 members of the committee who are not able to vote on this particular application, which is in the hands of Miranda. Miranda Beavers, please.
Good morning, Chairman. I'll just share my screen with you. You could just let me know when you can actually see my screen.
Not with me yet.
Yeah.
Okay, yes, it is with me. Just before you start, Miranda, oh no, Jackie Smith has probably left us. Okay, yeah, far away.
Okay, thank you, Chairman. This application is application number S20/0632. This is application for the change of use of paddock land to the rear of number 17 Eastgate, Deep in St James. The land would be used for dog exercising and obedience and agility classes. The proposal would include the provision of fencing, a hard standing area for customer car parking, and the demolition of stables. Members will note that this application was previously discussed at the Planning Committee meeting on the 30th of September, and the report and additional items papers are available in appendices 1 and 2 of the agenda pack. At the meeting, the committee resolved that it was minded to refuse the application contrary to officer recommendation. Those members who voted for the proposition were required to submit their reasons for refusal for consideration at the future planning committee. The reasons for refusal put forward by the members are included within the report and the additional items paper, but I will just talk about them briefly at the end of the presentation. The key issues in this instance are the principle of the development, highway safety, character and appearance of the area, neighbour immunity issues such as noise and disturbance. At the time of writing the original committee report, there were 77 objection letters to the proposal and 3 letters of support. Since the 30th of September committee meeting, a further 61 representations have been received, all objecting to the proposal, and some are likely to be from the same household. The application site for, just to aid the memory, the application site is outlined in red, and the land in the same ownership in blue, which is number 17 Eastgate. The site would be accessed from back lane. As members may recall, the site is accessed from back lane, which is a rural, narrow rural lane. This next plan shows the proposed layout of the paddock, with a large field to be used as a secure dog exercise area available for rent, and the 2 smaller fields would be used for dog agility and obedience classes. Existing outbuildings would be removed from the site. No dogs would be on the site overnight. No toilet facilities have been proposed, however, as the short class times of 50 to 60 minutes, it's considered not to be necessary. the owner has stated that staff would be able to use the facilities at number 17 Eastgate. Next, we just go to some photographs of the site. These photographs illustrate the rural nature of Back Lane, which has open and rural characteristics despite various commercial developments such as a caravan storage and caravan site close by. Just to point out that this yellow line.
Oh, it's Jackie. I've lost all communication.
Jackie, can you turn your microphone off, love, please? We are into.
Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Yes. Hang on, am I muted? Robert, can you tell her we can?
Chairman, we can hear you. Councillor Smith, we can also hear you, and I believe we had your video as well.
Yeah, we can hear you, Jackie, but I believe you were not present when this particular item was first discussed. So when it comes to the vote, if I'm told correctly, then you will not be able to participate in debate or vote. Okay.
She's gone again.
Am I okay to continue?
Sorry, Miranda. Carry on, please. Yes.
Okay. I was just going to point out that these particular images here are Google Street images, and the yellow line that you can see on the road isn't actually a yellow line painted on the road. It is actually from the Google image. So just to point that out. Now, this photograph was taken from within the application site, with Back Lane to the left and Eastgate to the right. Beyond the fence is the neighbouring paddock. As you can see, it's quite a large area. Again, this photograph was taken within the site and the views, and this is a view from Back Lane looking towards Eastgate. The outbuildings that you see in the picture will be removed. These next photographs are taken looking eastwards towards Back Lane. Okay, and this photograph is a Google Street image, and it illustrates the overall character of the area quite well. You can see the residential development in the distance and Back Lane in the forefront. Okay, so this next image I've actually included. It just shows a snapshot of where some of the objection letters have come from. So the red triangles denote the objection letters, the actual letters of objection and where they've come from. A green triangle would show support letters. You'll probably be able to see that there are no green triangles within the immediate locality. The turquoise squares denotes neighbours that were notified but no response was received. So some of these are just up here. We actually didn't have any responses from these residents. Okay, so I've gone too far with my... Okay, so as I stated earlier, the members put forward their reasons for refusals. So the head of development management in the addendum report has laid out his comments to those reasons for refusals. So the on-traffic impact, he stated that due to the existing nature of the lane, the low traffic impact considered that as a below traffic impact, and that there's no objection from the Highway Authority, it's recommended that a reason for refusal on highway grounds would not be defendable at appeal. Furthermore, the edge of settlement reason for refusal, the head of planning considers that due to the separation from the residential development, the proposed site is considered to be open countryside and not edge of settlement. So he sort of stated that the reasons put forward by members SP4 would not be considered relevant because that relates to edge of settlement. SP5 The proposal is in accordance with SP5 as it's a rural diversification project. However, a residential amenity, the local plan policy E7 relates to the rural economy, and it is considered that there's part of E7 states that development should not have an impact on the neighbouring uses through noise, traffic, light pollution impacts, and so therefore there is a suggested reason for refusal. That the proposed use of the site for dog exercise area, obedience, agility classes is located in close proximity to neighbouring residential uses, and therefore that it isn't contrary to policy E7 paragraph C. Finally, it is the officer's recommendation that the principle of the development in this location is acceptable in accordance with policies SP5 and policy E7, as it is a rural diversification project within open countryside, and therefore a temporary approval was recommended. However, should the Planning Committee wish to refuse the application contrary to officer recommendation, the reasons set out in paragraph 3.17 of the report are suggested. The applicant has submitted, and also to be noted, the applicant has submitted an appeal against non-determination of the application. So therefore the application will be planning inspectorate, with the council not issuing a decision but instead putting forward a case as part of the appeal process. If members agree to the refusal reason, this will be the basis of the council's case for the planning inspectorate. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you, Miranda. Are you going to remove the presentation?
I will.
Thank you.
There we go.
Okay, so Jackie, I don't know whether Jackie's back with us, but there's a note in the chat box that she has been having connection problems. And I think the first one to ask, because we're into questions to the case officer, Councillor Reid. Robert, is it?
Chairman, thank you. For a point of clarity on actually several of these applications, as Miranda's kindly pointed out to us, that in section 3.1.7 we are actually we have the reasons of going against the officer's recommendation for refusal, and therefore it should only be anything that would be considered additional to those reasons that really should be of debate for today.
Yep, thank you for that, Robert. I'm sure you're absolutely right. Councillor Dilks, Phil, you have a question, please, for Miranda? Councillor Dilks, Phil?
Oh, I'm so sorry, Mr. Chairman. Sorry,
that's all right, sir, no problem.
Yes, thank you, Miranda, for your presentation. In the detailed reasons that I gave, as you know, were not in the included in the committee report, but I'm thankful that they have been put in the additional papers. My question is, did the head of planning, when he assessed the reasons, assess those entirely on those headlines or on the detailed narrative that I gave? The reason I asked the question is because there's no reference in his comments, I see, to either the neighbourhood plan, which is at a very advanced stage and has gone to the inspector and has had questions asked about it, and nothing raised, I understand, about the proposal for Back Lane to become a green lane, an official green lane. And also there's no mention of my suggested reason that the application does not comply with SB1, which is almost on the first page of the local plan. It doesn't even get past the first page, which is about development expected to create strong, sustainable, cohesive and inclusive communities. This, in my view, doesn't do any of that. They're preparing for war down there, I've got to say, as you'll see by the extra letters of objection that have come in. Sorry, I'm moving into debate, but my questions there is did the head of planning actually consider all the detail of what I put in, or did he just see the headlines that appear in the original report?
Well, it might be more appropriate for Will to answer that one, Miranda. Yes, are you happy with that?
I didn't know if Will was here.
Yeah. Will, would you like to come in, please?
Yeah, thank you, Chairman. Yes, I was aware of your comments, Councillor Dilks, but not initially. I think by virtue of the fact that the reports which I drafted didn't refer to your original comments would testify to that situation. The situation or the position is that your comments have been circulated, and I have been in a position now to take those into account. I can comment on them now or at a later stage, Chairman.
No, we may as well deal with them now, if you will, please, Will.
Yeah, in terms of the neighbourhood plan, albeit it's in an advanced stage, but is not yet approved, and therefore, in planning terms, relatively little weight can be afforded to that, and even if it was allocated or designated as a green lane, I can't see the difference that would make to the proposal in question that you're looking at today. Secondly, SP1 doesn't comply with that. I disagree. Because it talks about the need to develop strong and cohesive communities. I think what the policy means by that, you can see in the explanation of that policy, leading up to that policy and after the policy, it tells you really in detail what it means, and that doesn't mean sort of issues of this macro level. It talks about developing communities where housing, sustainable urban developments take place to make sure that there are sufficient social facilities and community facilities so that the community can develop properly and cohesively, and so that's what is meant by that. I think, just to comment on the objections to the application, Miranda's plan showing comments from people who were consulted, it shows that many of those really close to the site didn't object or didn't submit their comments. So that is interesting. But in terms of those points you make, Councillor Dilks, I don't think they are particularly relevant, or put it this way, I don't think they would be considered acceptable in a defence of the decision to refuse.
Thank you, Will. Okay, Phil. If you're okay, Councillor Bisnell Singh Harris, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Miranda, for your presentations. It was very nice. I would very much like to know, this is the EN4, the back lane is a very quiet lane, is for occasional access. So I know there's a caravan park there, people very, and in a day there's very few traffic. But with this development here, if you're talking on every hour, you've got 12 vehicles movement, you see. in a day, you've got a 9 hours day, you've got 108 vehicles movements, and then even a quiet day in winters, it will have 72 vehicles movements. So this become a very, very busy, it was busy as Piccadilly Circus to me. So I said, why in a such quiet back lane, which is designated as a country lane, for it to put so many traffics? I don't accept that.
Harish, are you asking a question or are you debating?
My question is, surely has assessment been made that this is unsuitable to carry the number of traffic?
Chairman, perhaps I could answer that to help Miranda on this one.
Thank you, Will.
I think the simple answer is this, that I appreciate that Councillor Bithnav Singh was using a bit of artistic license referring to this like Piccadilly Circus. I appreciate it was just to make a point. But in all seriousness, we come back to this issue about the comments from the local highway authority, the engineers, the experts, the people who have assessed this against the road network locally, and they've come back and not objected to it. So the answer is yes, it has been assessed by the County Council's highway engineers who are qualified in these matters, and they've come to the conclusion that it is acceptable from that point of view.
But Lincolnshire Highways never
taken it. Hang on, Harish. We're not in debate. We're not in discussion or argument. We're just asking questions of the case officer, please. Any more questions? Yes, Councillor Crawford. Helen, please. Helen Crawford.
Yeah. I think Will might be able to answer this one. Page 85, 3.3. The site is linear in nature to be accessed from back lane, whilst the westernmost part of the site does border on the residential gardens. So if it borders residential gardens, how can it be open countryside?
Well,
okay, open countryside is not confined to areas just remotely in the countryside. There are cases, I hope you accept what I'm saying as a fact, not an opinion, that in many local plans and in many interpretation of this in court cases and appeals and so on, it is quite feasible for open countryside to start where the urban area finishes. So the fact that this site is adjacent to an urban area or settlement, residential areas, that doesn't mean to say it is an open countryside. That is our assessment, that this is open countryside. And I think in the report I explain why we don't consider this to be edge of settlement, and I appreciate why it's been put forward as a suggestion, because with SP4 much depends on local support, and there is no great local support here. So, but in terms of categorisation, it is open countryside in my view.
Thank you very much, Will.
Thank you, Will. There are no other members wishing to ask questions of the case officer, so can we move on to debate, please? And there is only one speaker indicated, and that's Councillor Reid. Robert?
Thank you, Chairman. Well, I have alluded to 3.17, which is the advice that we understand from our development manager as our reasons for refusal that would be considered to be upheld in an appeal. I think there's two other things. Councillor Helen Crawford has mentioned it, and I still think that sort of the curtilage of SP4 is actually commiserate to it, though it's not put in for a reason for refusal. And I'd like to just remind members that with the greatest degree of respect to us all, none of us are highways engineers, and LCC are the highways authority, and for us to make comments that are differing to LCC wouldn't be looked upon in an appeal as actually holding us any credit, as much as we are often frustrated. So if there are no other wait a minute, I can see that Phil wants to speak in debate. So I'm quite comfortable, Chair, to actually propose the reasons for refusal that we've got, and I'm quite happy to obviously listen to what Councillor Dilks has got to say now, Chair.
Robert, are there any additional reasons to the one in 3.17? If there are, then we need to clarify exactly what they are. Hopefully, have them in some sort of document form.
Well, I'd just like to listen to what Phil's got to say, but SB4, we have put it forward. But it's obviously been discounted. So let's just listen to what my colleague, Councillor Dilks, has got to say.
And my colleague as well. Councillor Dilks, Phil?
Thank you, we're all colleagues. Can you hear me, Mr. Chairman?
Sorry, yes, I can.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can, Phil.
Oh, sorry, I'm sorry. I wanted to come back to Will and ask some further questions. I thank him for what he said. I actually wanted to ask, if I may, if Will actually visited the site when he made his assessment. I'll leave him to consider that. But
sorry, can you answer that quickly, Will? Have you visited the site?
No, I haven't, but I've looked at aerial photographs and Google Street Maps.
Okay, thank you, Will.
I've got to say, anybody visiting the site would not, in my opinion, and I don't think Will either would, when he visited the site, would actually class this as open countryside. It is effectively somebody's back garden, frankly. And when you look at the red dots that Miranda kindly showed us as to those that have objected, you can see that those are people who live very close to this development. And that's why we have SB4 in there, because it clearly is the edge of a development. You've only got to look at the map to see it's the edge of, in my view. I do respect the, that there's another view here, but I live here, and I've got to say they are preparing for war down there, because these are people who live very reasonable people who live very close to this site, and they are concerned about it. Now, I welcome the fact that the head of planning has put that reason, has accepted the one reason, i.e. the noise, that there is the nearest houses are just 16 metres away from this site. And that is clearly not open countryside either, but we can have that argument. I would like to see included extra reasons. I would make an argument for the neighbourhood plan being in the reasons. I understand in the last debate that we had that the neighbourhood plan in Stamford was not as advanced. It's certainly not as advanced as the Deepings one is. It's already been to an inspector. We've previously been told that we can give some weight to neighbourhood plans as they emerge, but not full weight. I accept that. But when we get to full weight, we are talking about that the neighbourhood plan becomes a stronger material consideration than any other. So surely the fact that it's been to the inspector must make it of relevance. And that we are, all things being equal, when that goes through, the back lane will become an official green lane. We've been trying to protect that green lane for 30 years. We are months away, weeks away from doing it, and this application is going to pull the rug from under that proposal, I would suggest. I noticed that the head of planning mentions, if I can, on highways, says that this back lane is capable of large vehicles going up and down. I've lived here 35 years. I walk Back Lane very regularly. I have never seen, certainly caravans are mentioned, I've never seen a caravan down there. There is a small caravan site. It's only, I believe, for 4 caravans, a very peaceful site, and they are encouraged to go in from the other end of Back Lane. It is not a motorway down there, I've got to say.
Okay, Chairman, can I...
On the, Will, I'll just finish if I may. Will, thank you. I am particularly livid, as I'm sure other members are, that we are not going to determine this because, you know, we've run out of time now. I appreciate everything.
Phil, you're cracking. You're breaking up, Phil. Are you?
I am having some IT difficulties, Mr. Chairman, but the point I'm making is you know, we spent months negotiating with the applicant, and I just think that would have been better spent perhaps by dealing with the application within the limited time that we had. So in summary, I'd like to add, or like Will's, you know, I'll make another plea to Will to add neighbourhood plan, the Green Lane application, and something on, you know, the fact that Back Lane is simply not a highway. You know, it's a country lane. Can I just say one last thing, Mr. Chairman, if I may? SB4 and SB5, open countryside. Colleagues will recall that at the last, when we discussed this in September, I think Will had to disappear from the meeting. I think he had a family emergency, Mr. Richards did. But we had, Miranda gave her presentation. We had an argument about whether it was open countryside, i.e. SB4, or edge of settlement. And Phil Moore actually came in with his expertise and suggested that it may well be SB4 and not open countryside. He accepted that. We then had a third officer come in that was Reddy. I know he's not with us anymore, but Reddy actually then came in trying to defend the officer recommendation and actually said, Councillor Dilks, he said, this applicant is prepared to make a big investment in this application. Since when on earth was the amount of investment an applicant was prepared to put in a material consideration? If I suggested that, I would have been shouted down straight away. I'm just not happy with this one at all, and I'm very unhappy that we are not making a determination on it, partly because of the process that we have that clearly needs amending. Thanks, Mr. Chairman.
I think we are making a determination, Will, are we not? Although it has gone for non-determination, we are in fact making a determination.
Yeah, absolutely. The position is, if we can deal with those points individually, because the applicants have lodged an appeal to the Planning Inspectorate for non-determination within the 8 weeks period, the council is still required to put forward...
Excuse me a minute, Will. Somebody has got their microphone on and is shuffling around papers. Could you all please turn your microphone off? It is very disconcerting. Sorry, Will, thank you.
I understand the point Councillor Dilks makes about the appeal and non-determination. The decision won't be ultimately made by members of the Planning Committee. It will be done by the Planning Inspector. That would still be the case, I might add, had it been refused or without their appealing initially for non-determination, they could have appealed after having a refusal. So that is, with respect, not a relevant consideration. If I can just go through those points, I have not visited the site. The case officer has visited the site. I have assessed the report. I'm aware of where it is. I haven't been on site. In terms of whether it's open countryside, you received my opinion on it in the report. I can't comment about other officers who may. I mean, the thing with planning, I'll be frank with you, that it's quite a subjective matter in many ways. So if you line up 30 planners against the wall and ask them a question, you might have 30 different answers. So it's a question of how they interpret it. But my interpretation, as I've been asked in the report to comment, I support the case officer here. I don't believe it does come under SB4. It is classic open countryside. I understand that it is adjacent to a settlement, so it can be defined. But if you look at the local plan and the explanation as to what constitutes open countryside and SB4, you can see the differentiation there. So points were made about proximity to houses. It's in somebody's back garden. Well, the nearest house property is 12 metres away. So that's not sort of cheek by jowl. It's that's the nearest house. The rest of the houses are further away. And again, Councillor Dale talks about highways issues. Again, I can simply just refer to the highways comments that they have no objection to it. And so, I think that is an argument that if you put these issues in a reason for refusal, in addition to the one that we're suggesting, I don't think it's the least worst situation, really. I'm not saying necessarily that the noise issue is a serious consideration, for the simple reason in open countryside you do have noises, animal noises, cattle, sheep, dogs even, people do take dogs for walks. And this is for a limited period. I think it's an application for 1 year initially, and it isn't sort of 8 in the morning until 8 at night. It's sort of for limited periods. So I understand, there is a difference of opinion here, but I think we've got to be pragmatic here and just concentrate on the reasons that you've got a half a chance of winning an appeal on. In terms of noise, to be honest with you, the reason that wasn't put down initially was because other statutes, laws, do cover that other than planning, like Environmental Protection Act 1990, that talks about statutory nuisance, and noise is a matter which comes under that category. And if dogs, and I've dealt with cases in the past and appeals against statutory nuisance when dogs representing clients where they've been accused by the local authority of causing a statutory nuisance by the dogs barking, and the appeal process there is in the magistrate's court. But basically, if there is another way of dealing with a noise issue, then that is the way it should be dealt with, and that's why it wasn't included in our initial sort of reports, and it's the only one that would hold some water, in my view, but albeit the nearest property is 12 metres away, so it's quite a distance. So I think well, that's my view. It's a matter for the members to decide how they proceed.
Thank you, Will.
Just briefly say, actually, he didn't mention, thank you for that, but he didn't mention the neighbourhood plan. It can surely be given some weight, and once we've established the one valid reason that we think is solid, why not put the some weight behind the neighbourhood plan? I accept what you say, that planning is subjective and a balance and all those things, and that if we line up all the planning officers, they may have different interpretations. The inspector may interpret things differently as well, and the inspector may not be persuaded by the single reason or the reason that we're putting forward here on noise. But the inspector may be persuaded by the fact that this is not open country, but in fact is edge of settlement, as in my view it clearly is. One other thing I'll just say on need, I know that we don't say anything on need in this on this application, probably because we're defining it under SB5, of course. But you know, there is, in my view, no demonstrated need for this. The applicants didn't demonstrate any need for it. There is a similar facility to this that's being proposed about a mile away in a straight line in open countryside within the Deepings. And I also look to P. Garage station inspection report, where the inspector says that she had regard. She says in paragraph 11 of her determination, I have had regard as to whether the area is adequately served by this type of development. And she makes the point that she disagrees with the appellant that on the need, and we did have a debate on this. I don't want to go over the old argument, but we did have a debate, and I thought it was ridiculous that they were claiming on the BP petrol station one that there was a need for this because there wasn't a petrol station within about 3 miles away. But the inspector on that actually said that she notes that the council didn't argue on need, and in my view, the inspector there makes a point that had the council made that argument on need, she would have taken higher regard of it. And she actually says there's no evidence before me which would lead to me to declare there's not a justified need, and because she notes the council does not challenge the content of the applicant's report on need. It's this whole thing of need just seems to be, you know, we should perhaps pay more mind to it. Thank you.
Thank you, Phil.
I would support, can I say I formally second, I think Robert actually proposed refusal on grounds. I would wish to support that. I would still want to, if anybody's prepared to support an amendment to include something on the neighbourhood plan.
Can I come back in there?
Yeah, just before you do, I think there's 2 points here, Phil. There's nothing to stop us putting additional reasons for refusal if we so wish. I think what we're being told by the legal team is that the strongest one is this question of noise, but we can, and I'm sure Will would agree, we can add others as long as we can do it very quickly in terms of the wording. But equally, Phil, there's nothing to stop any individual or member of the public or member of the council actually raising objections direct to the planning inspector, even though it's gone through this committee and you've been a member of this committee. So there is another route that can be taken if members of the public or members of council so wish.
Thanks for that.
Okay, Phil. So we're looking now at 3 additional reasons, SP4, SP5 and neighbourhood plan. We need to produce a form of words very quickly because I don't want to defer this and move on to something else and come back to it. Will, can you help here in terms of verbiage?
Yeah, in terms of the neighbourhood plan, we could you could sort of state that in view of the fact that the neighbourhood plan is in an advanced state of preparation, and due to the fact that there are proposals to designate the lane. I can't remember the name of it.
The green lane. Back lane.
The back lane as a green lane, and explain, we can say in brackets what that would entail. We believe that the application, if approved, would mitigate against the objectives of that proposal. And then secondly, in terms of SP4, you can simply state, if that is your wish, that it's considered that the site is edge of settlement, and therefore policy SP4 kicks in, or is appropriate, and therefore, given that there is no local support for the application, then the application should fail. So those are the sort of words I would suggest, and we can sort of tidy it up. But I take Councillor Dilks's point of view. Perhaps the inspector might take these. It is a subjective interpretation and so on. So yes, I mean those three would be worth putting in.
Will it be also, can we add SP5 so that the needs hasn't been demonstrated?
I think SP5 is no local support, isn't it?
Yeah. Right, there's no other support.
SP4 is the one where that requires local support, edge of settlement. SP5 open countryside does not require local support.
Oh, sorry, I've got it.
Yeah. So you must put down SP4 really, because that's the one where it requires local support.
So just to clarify then, we're adding just two additional reasons. One is the reference to the neighbourhood plan, and the other is to SP4. When you say this can be tidied up, Will, could you elaborate on that? Or can we just leave it for this committee? That is.
Can I say, Chairman,
yes,
that we're mindful of the advanced stage of the neighbourhood plan? I think those are the right words. And I agree with SP4. And to put SP5 in it, to be honest, would actually probably weaken the situation. And there it is for members looking.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, that's SP4.
I think what we can say is that given the advanced state of preparation of the neighbourhood plan, given where we are with that, basically, instead of being mindful, you can say, given that it is in an advanced stage and is now before the planning inspectorate, then weight should be given to policy, whatever it is, in respect of the Green Lane proposals, and that this application would mitigate against these objectives.
Okay, Martha, sorry, you indicated you wish to speak. You said you still wish to...
Thank you, Chairman. I think I was going to address the SP5 issues, but I think that sounds like it's been dropped as one of the reasons for refusal.
Okay.
At least from what I've followed. But I wanted to clarify in terms of when you're talking about need under SP5, SP5, when it talks about having an essential need, it's to do with like the type of development needs to be located. It's not necessarily whether or not the proposed development is needed, so to speak, as in there's already a dog exercise place nearby, in terms of whether this is the correct place for an application to be located. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you, Martha.
I think if you put, Chairman, I think if you put SP5 and talk about need, I think we could come unstuck on appeal, because we have no evidence before us in terms of a need, and so I think that's a difficult one to pursue, I think.
Okay. Robert, as the proposer, are you comfortable with that, content with that?
Yeah, I'm content with that, Chairman, and I'm pleased. I think, to be fair, we haven't changed, from what I've listened to, what I've heard, where the reasonings are concerned, we haven't changed our position statement, and collectively I'm therefore upholding the proposal for refusal on the grounds that we've given. I understand, and quite rightly so, that Councillor Dilks has seconded, and I ask that we move it to the vote, please, Chair.
Thank you. I will move it to the vote. I just want to clarify, Councillor Milnes, Penny, have you not been able to listen to the whole of this? No, I've done that. Penny, will you be...
I missed a fair bit, I'm afraid. I got knocked out. It said Matthew Wilkinson had joined the meeting, but not on Skype, and then I just lost everything.
Okay.
Bradley very kindly got me back in, but I did miss 10 minutes, so I don't know.
Well, perhaps as well, if you do you think you heard enough to be able to vote on it, or would you?
I
Personal
think
decision.
Shelley is advising me not to vote in this instance.
Okay.
I mean, obviously, I know a lot about it, having been involved first time round, but.
Chairman,
Okay.
I would advise that Councillor Mills doesn't participate in the vote because of the amount that she's missed.
Okay, I think it'd be wise to take that that advice, Penny.
Yes, I think so. Very sad, but I think I need to, yeah.
Okay.
Chairman, can I make just one point, please? Just going back to what Councillor Reid was saying, the original reasons for refusal suggested by members, one of those I don't think would be, I don't think you have agreed to proceed with the traffic issue and the impact on traffic, given the advice I proffered on the issue of County Council highway advice. So I think what we're talking about here is noise, edge of settlement, SB4, and the neighbourhood plan. So
we're E7, SP4, and neighbourhood plan.
Yeah.
Yep. Okay. Yeah. And will you sort of do the wording, or will Martha or Shelley to tidy up the wording?
Yeah, I'm more than happy to help on that, Chairman.
Thank you very much indeed. Before we go on to the vote, can I ask members to please turn off their cameras, the videos, when they're not speaking? There is quite a bit of interference, at least it's coming through my headphones, and it might help people who are having difficulty with connection. So if you're not speaking, please turn off the camera and mute yourself. So, Susan, can we go on to the vote, please?
Certainly, Chairman. Just to clarify, those members that cannot vote on this one are Councillor Harish Bisnow Singh, Councillor Mike Exton, Councillor Penny Mills, and Councillor Jackie Smith. Is that correct?
Thank you, Susan. Why is it I can't vote?
Was this because you weren't present?
Were you present at the first hearing, Harish?
I think I was, and I voted for the minded to refuse, and I put my reason.
Okay.
2.3.
Oh, you did, yes, absolutely.
Mr. Chairman, it's Councillor Bellamy that can't take part.
Sorry, the red line went in the wrong place.
Thank you, David.
And Councillor Judy Smith.
And Councillor Judy
I wasn't here at the previous hearing.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Right, to proceed, this is with the additional items for or against refusal. So those for refusal and indicate please or against. Councillor Bob Adams.
For refusal.
Councillor Harish Bisnow Singh.
For refusal.
Councillor Helen Crawford.
For refusal.
Councillor Phil Dilks.
For refusal.
Councillor Robert Reid.
For refusal.
Councillor Mrs. Rosemary Cabrew-Brown.
Rosemary, are you there?
Shall I proceed, Chairman?
Yeah, move on, Susan. Yeah.
Councillor Ian Selby.
For refusal.
That's 6 members for refusal.
Thank you, Susan. So we can now move on. Rosemary Cabrew-Brown, have you lost connection again? IT, are you listening? Can you contact Rosemary?
I'm all right. Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can indeed. Okay, Rosemary, as long as you're back with us. We've had the vote and you've missed that, so we're moving on to the next item on the agenda.
Mr. Chairman, thank you to you, Mr. Chairman, for chairing that. Thank you, Will, for accepting those arguments, and for Robert, and to all members in the way that you voted. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for that, Phil. We're going to move on to the item 6, application 0311. Could I ask members, please, to be mindful that we have debated this and discussed it, and that we're really looking at reasons for refusal, or to support the reasons for refusal. Can can we move on perhaps a little bit quicker on these, where we're just confirming or not our original reasons?
If I can say, Chairman, I think this should be fairly straightforward, because we did ask the head of planning at the time if the reasons were acceptable, and he said in that meeting that they were, and he's confirmed that in his assessment. So it should be pretty straightforward.
So hopefully Mr. Lifford can give a brief reintroduction, and then we can move straight to the vote.
Yes, thank you, Chairman. If you just bear with me, I have a very, very small presentation to show you.
Thank you.
Tell me when it gets onto the screens, and a very short presentation.
Could I ask who's shuffling papers, please? It's very distracting, particularly my earphones. Please turn off your microphones. Be extremely helpful. Thank you.
Right, well, whilst this is waiting to load, so it's application S20/0311. It was for the erection of a war memorial in the marketplace at Market Deeping. The application was considered at the last planning committee, where it was resolved to refuse the application contrary to officer's recommendation. The members were to submit their reasons. A response was received from Councillor Dilks to refuse the application in relation to policies DE1, which is design, and policy EN6 on the historic environment of the local plan, and the MPPF. These were reviewed by the head of planning and considered defensible on appeal. So should members wish to refuse the application, a refusal reason is set out at 3.2, which is on page 109 of the committee report. So the recommendation is one of refusal. So I was hoping to get my screen up to actually have the reason on there.
Peter, I think it's getting there, because we've got a little circle going round.
Oh, yeah,
Can't be very far away.
Yeah, I've had that ever since I've been talking.
Oh,
so,
sorry.
I would say that the reason for refusal that we're recommending is as set out in 3.2 on page 109. Back to you, councillors, for your consideration. Thank you.
Okay, there's not. Oh, here we go.
Typical. Right, hang on.
Okay.
Just bear with.
Very briefly then, Peter. Yep.
So I say, well, as I've just said, on the screen now is the reason that we're recommending as a defensible reason that could be defended on appeal if the applicant was to do such a thing.
Thank you, Peter. I'm going to formally move that. Do I have a seconder, please?
Yes, I'll second.
So was that Judy? Judy Smith. Thank you, Judy.
Yes, yeah.
Do any members wish to have a debate?
No.
I'll take that as a no. Can we move straight to the vote? Sorry?
Yes, Mr. Chairman.
We're moving straight to the vote, yes? Thank you. Susan?
Hello, this is for refusal recommendation on item 5C. The only members I've got that cannot vote on this one is Councillor Crawford. Is that correct?
Well, the Councillor Crawford or any other member would have to declare themselves whether they.
I was here at the first debate.
Thank you, Helen. Then you can't vote. Any other members?
Mr. Chairman, I've indicated in the chat I wish to speak quite a while ago.
Sorry, Ian, I've not picked it up because I'm having problems here. Can we get rid of the... where are we?
Councillor Helen.
Okay, Helen. Sorry, Ian. Yes, far away.
Yeah, thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, you may recall at the last meeting on this item, I put forward a proposal that the general public should have been asked, could be asked in a local referendum. Members may recall I made that suggestion. I made the suggestion to try and be helpful. So I hope colleagues didn't take that in the wrong manner. I just felt that that it's one of those things that the local people should be asked. Just as, for example, here in Grantham, we have a statue that I felt the local people here should have been asked.
Come on, we don't want that.
Okay, I know what you're going to say. However, I say I don't think it's for us people here in Grantham to be telling the people in Market Deeping what they should or should not be having in the middle of their town centre. Therefore, Mr. Chairman, that remains my view. Okay. And I do think that that the local people in Market Deeping could be asked if they want it or if they don't want it. I shall be abstaining, therefore, Mr. Chairman, on this item. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ian. I'm quite sure that we would be guided by our planning experts that it's not for this planning committee to instigate a local referendum. We can only determine an application as before us, and it is up for the local people to organise their own referendum if they wish to. Okay, so there's no further speakers. It has been proposed and seconded. I'm now going to the vote. Susan, would you start the vote, please?
Can I just check whether Councillor Jackie Smith participated last time?
No, she didn't.
No, she didn't. So she cannot vote. To proceed, this is for refusal. Councillor Bob Adams, please.
For refusal.
Councillor David Bellamy.
For.
Councillor Harish Visnau.
For refusal.
Councillor Phil Dilks.
For refusal.
Councillor Mike Exton.
For refusal.
Councillor Penny Mills.
For refusal. Can I just clarify why Helen isn't allowed to vote in this?
Because she wasn't at the first hearing, Penny.
I was at the first hearing.
She voted in that first
hearing.
Yeah, that's what I said at the beginning. I was at the first meeting, so I should be allowed to vote.
I beg your pardon, Helen. I thought you said you weren't at the first meeting. So yes, absolutely right. Who said you weren't?
She went to site visit.
Yeah.
Okay, Helen.
Can I Councillor Helen Crawford?
For against.
Sorry, are you for refusal or against refusal?
For refusal.
For refusal.
Councillor Robert Reid.
For refusal.
Councillor Rosemary Cabry-Brown.
For refusal.
Councillor Ian Selby.
Abstain.
Abstain. And Councillor Judy Smith.
For refusal.
I have 10 for refusal and 1 abstention.
Thank you, Susan. I suspect that the next application will take a little while, so I'm again going to call for a 5-minute break, please.
What about a lunch break, Bob?
Yeah, lunch break, Mr. Chairman.
22.
Hello, members. Chairman wants to just take this as a short break and do the next application and then have a lunch break.
Okay, fine.
Thanks, Robert.
Can you hear me, Mike?
Councillors can be reminded that the recording is still playing.
I'll try. Can we have the screen unmuted, please, presenter? Which I think is Susan, isn't it?
That should be now.
We're there, thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can, Jackie.
Right.
Are you okay?
Yeah, it's just I'm getting a bit fed up.
I should think so, but I'm asking people to turn their cameras off when they're not speaking, because that might help with the connectivity.
Just be reminded that the meeting is being recorded, members.
Yes, indeed. Thank you for that.
Thank you, Chairman.
So, Shelley, can we do a roll call? Hopefully everybody's back.
Yes.
Thank you, Susan. Thank you.
Susan?
Susan, are you there? And I will continue in Susan's absence, Chairman.
Thank you, Shelley.
Councillor Bob Adams.
Present.
Councillor David Bellamy.
Present.
Bellamy. Thank you. Councillor Harish Bisnath Singh. Councillor Bisnath Singh.
Come back to him, Shelley.
Thank you. Councillor Helen Crawford.
Present.
Councillor Phil Dilks.
Present.
Councillor Mike Exton.
Present.
Councillor Mrs Rosemary Cabry Brown.
Present.
Councillor Penny Milnes.
Present.
Councillor Charmaine Morgan. Don't believe she's entered the meeting yet, but I'd just like to check.
Thank you.
Thank you. It appears that she's not arrived in the meeting. Councillor Robert Reid.
Present.
Councillor Ian Selby.
Present. Only just though.
Thank you. Councillor Jackie Smith.
Present.
Thank you. Councillor Mrs Judy Smith.
Present.
And I will just return to Councillor Bisnath Singh. Councillor Bisnath Singh, are you here? I will get IT to check, Chairman.
Thank you very much indeed, Shelley.
Could I speak to the chairman for a minute, please? It's
Rosemary. Yes, Rosemary.
Ever since yesterday and this morning, and IT are aware of this, when I couldn't get in, it said, there was a notice came on and said, you cannot get in because you're sharing, or Matthew Wilkinson isn't using Skype for business. Now, I don't share a telephone line with anyone. It's now come up again. You might notice some features aren't available because Matthew Wilkinson isn't using Skype.
Rosemary, that's nothing to do with you. Either ignore it or go to the right-hand side of the yellow bar and just click on the cross and it will take it away. I keep getting that as well.
Ah, well, I was just worrying in case somebody had tried to get into the meeting under my name.
Well, they're not doing so, Rosemary, so just click on the black arrow on the right-hand side, sorry, black cross on the right-hand side, and it will take it away.
Yes, thank you very much, Bob. Wish I'd have asked earlier.
Okay. Harish, are you back with us?
Can I just say that's what happened to me when I got cut off. That came up and then I was cut off and of course then missed a vote.
Well, if you click the cross on the right-hand side, I'm getting it all the while. It's coming up on mine.
Keep crossing it. I'm back, Mr. Chairman.
Sort it out. Who is he?
Hang on, we're not going to get into a debate into IT. We're going on to application 2140. If anybody loses connectivity, please put it in the chat box and I'll deal with it then. Okay. So, Chris Brown, please, 2140.
Thank you, Chairman. Please just bear with me a second while I load up my presentation. I'd be grateful if you could let me know, Mr. Chairman, when...
Yes, I've got it on my screen, Chris.
Excellent. Thank you. I'll crack on.
It's on everybody's now.
I have got it now.
And just for the record, Matthew Wilkinson has come up again on my screen. So I'm clicking the cross. It's now gone.
I've still got it.
Click on the red. Click on the cross on the right-hand side, Rosemary, and it'll go.
Are you happy for me to carry on, Mr. Chairman?
Yes, I am, please, Chris.
Thank you. Yes, so this application is a reserved matters application for the erection of 49 dwellings. This reserved matters follows the initial outline consent on the site for 49 dwellings, which was reference S180093. This item was previously reported to Planning Committee on the 8th of July 2020 with a recommendation for approval. Members resolved to refuse the application with reasons then submitted. The key issues considered as part of this application are considered to be the principle of development, the impact of layout, design, landscaping and character, impact on neighbouring amenity and affordable housing provision. Now this is the application site, red line site for the outline permission. The site is located to the south of Barrowby with Low Road to the west of the site and then also Low Road that continues round south of the next site down. This is an aerial view of the site. This shows the dwellings of Low Road opposite the site and dwellings of the Drift, Westry Close and Charnwood Close looking to the south. Within the next slide, similarly an aerial drone view of the site. This now shows Hedgefield Road and the two roads off Hedgefield Road that come down to the site. The building in the bottom corner of the site, so that's to the left of your screens there, is the existing Scout Hut. So this is the existing outline plan. So this was the indicative site plan provided as part of the outline consent, which shows 49 dwellings on the site. As part of the outline consent, only the red line and the access were agreed at that stage, with all matters then reserved, which have come forward as part of this application. Admittedly slightly out of focus, but this is the site plan now for this application. Please note that it does show an area removed from the original outline consent, with this indicatively shown here for a retail proposal. However, this does not form part of this reserved matters application, with this reserved matters application for the proposed 49 dwellings together with associated open space and drainage only. The site will use a single access from Low Road, with access shown to continue outside of the site, the persimmon element to the east of this site, and with pedestrian connectivity shown to both the south, which would link through to the next part of the site, and also back to Low Road, north of the existing vehicular access. The proposal is an all-affordable scheme for the 49 dwellings, split roughly 55% for affordable rent and 45% for shared ownership. Areas of open space, drainage and landscaping are shown to the northern boundary and also to the south, to the rear of the Scout Hut. These are some street scenes that were provided by the applicant. So across the top shows the view from Low Road. So with three dwellings that have been moved back as part of the application, shown on your top left of your screens there, with the remainder of the dwellings there set back from the site. And then the street scene in the middle shows a cross section through the centre of the site going from east to west. This is then the site overview, so this highlights the points above, which shows the areas of public open space, with two areas separately shown to the northern boundary of the site, and the drainage attenuation basin shown to the southern boundary of the site, to the rear of the Scout Hut. This is the overall sort of site overview. So the site we're talking about here is phase 1, highlighted in orange there, which forms part of this application. Phase 2 is then a site that's been put forward by Persimmon, so that's an application that's currently pending consideration. Phase 3 is the final phase of the wider part of the site. That hasn't come forward at the moment. That is part of the master plan, work of which is ongoing, I'll come back to, and an application for Phase 3 will be coming forward in 2021. All three phases together form part of a local plan allocation LVH3. In terms of this application was recommended for approval on the 8th of July. However, the committee reminded to refuse with 2 reasons put forward based on prematurity ahead of a master plan being agreed for the whole site allocation, and with the proposal not considered to be in conformity with the outline consent. We, the council, have sought council opinion on these proposed reasons for refusal. The council advice received concludes that we would not be able to defend these reasons at appeal. With regards to prematurity in the master plan, it is noted that the proposal does not fully comply with policy LVH3 with its requirement for a site-wide master plan. However, given that the site already has outline consent and that this proposed scheme in terms of layout, scale, landscaping and appearance is considered to be acceptable as submitted through the reserved matters application, this is considered to be in conformity with the local plan when taken as a whole. Persimmon and Larkfleet are the neighbouring site promoters to this, which was shown on the previous slide. They are working towards a master plan for the remainder of the site. This is currently in progress and they are currently working on comments previously provided by the Council's Urban Design Officer. In terms of the retail proposal that forms part indicatively as part of this wider site plan that was shown, so this is part of the outlined site that is not included within this reserved matters application and is not considered to be an issue in processing this reserved matters application. This application before you now proposes the same number of dwellings as permitted by the outline consent, with all plans provided at outline stage were shown as indicative only. Only access was agreed.
Thank you.
The reserved matters proposal is not considered to be overly dense despite a section being removed, and it meets the requirements for its on-site public open space. Any retail proposal will be considered separately as part of a separate application, and it will be considered on its own merits, and that will come before planning committee. The recommendation on this application therefore remains for approval. This is based on an officer recommendation of the Head of Development Management and on the Council advice received by the Council. I'll hand back to you. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you very much, Chris. Again, part heard, so no speakers. Questions to the case officer, please. Just let me have a look in the... Right, Councillor Reid, Robert, or you say speak in debate? Okay.
Speaking debate, I don't think there's questions left.
Okay, so I can't see any other member wishing to put any questions to the case officer. So can we move on to the debate, please? And Robert, at the moment, you're the only one indicating.
Thank you very much, Chairman. Well, I'm very happy. Well, I say I'm very happy. I'm comfortable to speak in debate. Happy would be totally the wrong word. First of all, I'd like to... Oh, am I on screen? No, I'm not on screen. Hang on. There we go. I should be there now. I'd like to show you this as a mark of respect, and also you probably won't be able to see it, but it's Barrowby Parish Council, the letter that I think other members would have received on the 3rd of... It was written on the 3rd of June, and item 1 on it was requirement for a master plan, which is one of the reasons that I did show it to you. Now, Chairman, just for the avoidance of doubt and clarity, yes, I am the portfolio holder for housing. We have taken advice from Shaheen, and there is no conflict of interest, and I am allowed to speak in debate and, of course, vote. Now, a grand master plan. It's very disappointing that under 3.12, 1.3 and 1.4 we have the reasons as to why this would not be upheld in an appeal to be included at this stage in a master plan. I suppose I have to reluctantly sort of agree and sincerely hope, and I will work with officers and give you that assurance too, Mr. Chairman, that master plans, the foresight of master plans for the future will be at the front of my working plan. I'd like to pay my respect and indeed thanks to the other two developers that are going to deliver this development in due course, that they are going to actually do that. So that is, and there has been a meeting held, as you will remember, Chairman, with developers to see if we could get this common consensus. I'm only too sorry that this doesn't fall into it. The reasons why are just abundantly clear. This development, and indeed with respect to the other two developments, when they are actually developed, then those are the developments, as we well know, in our hearts and our minds for the people of Barrowby, will be what they will then live with. And of course, these developments will be accepted and they will be integrated. I would have liked it that they would have been developed and integrated with further consideration for the residents of Barrowden that currently live there. And it's to that end I give the pledge about master plans for the future. I really, really think that's the case. So I hope I've explained a true position statement of where we are on master plans. I hope that other members will support me in accepting this application, because if we don't, it's one that I cannot find any further evidence in support of the inclusion of this being in a master plan to actually defend. So it is reluctantly, very, very, very reluctantly, that I am actually proposing this for approval. Obviously, yes, I'm listening to debate. Yes, and I've been the first person to speak. Thank you for that, Chairman. But that's just the way I see it.
Thank you, Robert. Councillor Milnes, Penny, please.
Yes, thank you. I share my disappointment, Robert, because how do we ensure, for example, a mix of market and affordable housing throughout the overall site? But, you know, again, we're being asked to do 100% affordable on this particular element. And the second part, you're talking about the Barrowby residents. They were consulted on this, weren't they? And they thought they were going to get something quite different to what they've now got. Plus, we've got the issue of a potential retail site there, which could end up as we don't know what. So, yeah, I'm very disappointed in this, and, you know, the weakness in our system that seems to have allowed this to happen. And if you say we really can't fight this, then, you know, it's a very sad day, but I take your disappointment as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Penny. There's no other indications from members that they wish to join the debate at this stage, but Councillor Reid has asked to come back. Robert?
Thank you for allowing me to do that, Chairman. I'll make a simile on this decision, members. Remember the decision we had to make on entry-level housing? This has a simile to that. In that I really feel we have absolutely no choice. But just please, members, remember we have got a little silver lining here. The silver lining is clearly that the two other developers are going to work together in a master plan as well. And I mean, that's basically all I can say. There is one other thing, isn't there, out of this? This is whereby which we would have liked the integration of affordable housing to have been balanced over the whole site. The one thing that will emerge out of this as this application and the master plan of the other two stand is that this will be affordable housing, and of course the others will have a 106 agreement in their application, so that will provide other affordable housing. I suggest, and I will work with officers, and officers will work with us to make sure that the 106 affordable housing within their plans are actually where we can ask for the developers also to be mindful that we actually balance the affordable housing within the overall picture, and I reckon that's the best we can do of this job. Thank you.
Thank you, Robert. Councillor Bellamy, David.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I think Councillor Rees might have just answered my question, really. The point I was going to make was what happens if one of the developers that's well known for affordable housing, I believe, comes forward with entirely affordable housing. But I'm happy to second Councillor Reed's proposal anyway. But I'd like to say, it would be very controversial if that did happen.
Thank you, David. Councillor Milnes wishes to come back.
Yes, I'd just like to take that up, what David has just said, in context of what I said earlier. This balance of housing, how do we ensure it? I mean, what do we have in place that we can ensure that we get a balance of housing when it's all written into our local plans and everything? And then we have to accept 100%. We could end up with 100% across the whole lot, could we?
No, I don't think so, Councillor Milnes. Penny. I have had a word with Robert during one of the very brief breaks. We are going to get together and we are going to look at how we drill down into our register of people wanting social housing of whatever nature, and we will at some point be having a discussion with members of the planning committee. We need to understand what that registered list is all about, where the applicants are coming from, where they want to go to, etc., so that we've got, in the famous words, we've got evidence, and it's evidence-based when we make decisions. And Robert has agreed to that course of action going forward. It might take a little bit of time, but it will be done in that way.
Chairman, can I just interject that point? I've had an idea, okay? I think it would be a good idea for me actually to put together a presentation for planning committee members so as they understand the geographics and the siting and the social inclusion across the district. That wouldn't be difficult to do, and I'm very happy to do it. And we could actually have it as a virtual meeting and make a better appreciation of it.
Thank you, Robert. That's taking it a stage further from the brief discussion we had in one of our breaks. Are members content with that?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay,
Very
thank you very
good.
much. Before going to vote, can I also include my expression of disappointment that this hasn't gone the way that I think we all think it should have done. I am very mindful of the disappointment that this will be with the Barrowby residents, and I share those disappointments and concerns. But again, to echo Councillor Reed's comments, I will work with him to ensure that the outcome is far, far better on the two remaining sites. So, and there's Harish. Councillor Bisnath Singh, you want to say something before I move to the vote? I'm going to move to the vote after this.
Before we go to vote, I was just going to ask you if I will be allowed to vote, because when last time I did follow the discussion all the way through. When it came in to vote, when I pressed to unmute my microphone, my system crashed. So that's why I'm not recorded as being voting last time. So does that mean that exclude me from voting this time?
These are the things you should ask well before the meeting, and ask of the appropriate people here, Harish. I don't know what how you voted at the last meeting. Are you telling me you weren't? If you're telling me that you weren't there for the whole of the meeting, then you can't vote here.
No, I was there for the whole of the meeting, but I was coming to vote when we unmute the microphone. My system crashed, so that's why I'm not recorded. So
okay, Martha, do you have a view on that, please?
Thank you, Chairman. So it's just a case, Councillor, that you actually couldn't cast a vote, not that you didn't, like that you had missed the debate and were precluded from voting.
that's right. I just could not vote because my system didn't allow me.
On the basis that you heard the entirety of the debate at the first meeting and you've heard the entirety of the debate at this meeting, then I'm quite happy that you can cast a vote, Councillor.
Thank you.
Thank you, Harry. Councillor Cabry-Brown, Rosemary.
Yes, Mr. Chairman. As we're having a presentation put to us, and it made a lot clearer, we hope, by Robert, could we not defer this and have the vote after we've had this other session with Robert Reid, when he's going to put it out to us?
The answer to that, Rosemary, really is no, because the presentation will be purely looking at going forward, how we, in terms of what the total situation is with people requiring, I'm going to use the word social housing, because affordable housing and entry-level housing and all the rest of it and shared ownership, that is all social housing of one form or another. So no, I don't think we can do that, Rosemary. We certainly might feel that we'd want to do that, but I think quite frankly, no, we can't.
Chairman, can I give a further assurance? Will you beg me? Thank you. We have an excellent officer in Debbie Roberts that does these presentations, and it won't take me too long to actually come back to everybody definitively, because it does form part of our housing rollout plan as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Robert. Penny, what do you... Well, Penny...
Mr. Chairman, can I come back quickly?
Yep.
When you're doing this presentation or getting it ready, can you make some inquiries as to whether we've got any bungalows in this? Because if you're doing it for affordable housing, and if you're doing it for, there are for people that are young but still need bungalows on the same, in other words, on the same floor. And I couldn't see any at all in that presentation. And
yeah, there is. If you look at page 141, which says the approved plans and the housing, it does show bungalows in that on page 141, Rosemary.
Right. Okay.
Okay.
I'll have a look at 141. I'll take it as said. Thank you.
Penny, what do you mean by please? Is this premature? I'm trying to move to a vote.
Yeah, I mean, if we're not sure yet about our rollout of affordable housing on this site, and in fact anywhere in the district, is this premature that we decide this? As 100% affordable?
No, I think we've gone past that stage, Rosemary. Penny. We've considered this. I mean, this has been going on since I think the first one was in 18, if I remember. Yeah, I think Robert's just made the point. What we're trying to understand is the total concept of affordable housing need and where, etc. No, I don't think that will help us in this application, Penny. I think we need to either vote for it or against it and move on, and make sure that we don't find ourselves in this scenario again. And Robert has already assured us that that will not happen. As I say, I have every sympathy with the Barrowby residents and the Barrowby Parish Council, but I'm sure we can all work together to ensure that we don't have the same scenario again. So I'm now going to move on to the vote, please. I've said that 4 times, and I'm now going to do it. Susan, can you go to the vote, please?
Hello, Chairman. Certainly, I've only got Councillor Helen Crawford as not being able to vote. Is that correct, please?
Can members confirm whether they are okay to vote or not, apart from Councillor Crawford? Okay,
yes.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. You're ready to proceed. This is for application S19/2140, and it's either for refusal or against refusal or abstain.
Sorry, it's for approval or against approval.
Apologies for that. For approval or against approval.
Yep.
Councillor Bob Adams?
For.
Councillor David Bellamy?
For.
Councillor Harish Bisnir Singh?
For, reluctantly.
Councillor Phil Dilks?
Very reluctantly for, but I think that the fact we've had the council advice persuades me. Thank you.
you. Councillor Mike Exton.
For.
Councillor Penny Mills.
Abstain.
Abstained. Councillor Robert Reid.
For.
Councillor Mrs. Rosemary Kidbury Brown.
Abstain.
Abstain. Councillor Ian Selby.
Against.
It's against. Councillor Jackie Smith.
For.
Councillor Mrs. Judy Smith.
For.
That's 8 for, 1 against, and 2 abstentions.
Thank you, Susan. I'm now going to recommend we have a quick lunch break. It's 5 to 1 according to the clock here. Can we be back, please, by about 1:15, 1, 1, please? Thank you.